As many of you know, I love true stories that are eerie, freaky, and even sometimes horrifying. The Amityville Horror was a series that I watched growing up.
It's the kind of house they don't build anymore. A relic of a time when the world wasn't in such a hurry.
God's peace in this house.
Mommy, I want to go home.
And only later learned that it was not only based on a true story, but the true story was even more horrifying than any of the books or films. I want to share with you this true and terrifying story of the home in Amityville, Long Island, New York. But I have to warn you, some of the events that we're going to discuss are scary and disturbing, so viewer discretion is advised. On November 13th, 1974, 23-year-old Ronald DeFeo Jr. ran into Henry's Bar, a local hotspot in Long Island, seemingly out of breath. He declared to the patrons, "You've got to help me. I think my mother and father are shot."
He came, he opened the door, and he was screaming, "Come on, help me. Somebody shot my mother and father." And everyone ran out of the bar, and that was it. They all took off. No, I had to stay. I was tending off. They all jumped in his car and took off.
A small group of people then followed Ronald to the DeFeo home on 112 Ocean Avenue. When the group entered the house, they were horrified to discover Ronald's parents had been brutally murdered. Suffolk County Police Department was quickly called, and they discovered that the parents were not the only victims. Ronald's siblings, 18-year-old Dawn, 13-year-old Allison, 12-year-old Mark, and 9-year-old John, had all been killed while they slept. The police also discovered that they had been killed around 3 o'clock in the morning, over 15 hours before Ronald stormed into the bar. Since Ronald was the only surviving member of the DeFeo family, Suffolk County Police turned to him for answers. Ronald told them he believed the killings had been committed by mobster Louis Fellini, and to protect Ronald, they took him to the police station in protective custody. When they arrived, police asked Ronald for an interview, and he obliged. During the interview, Ronald quickly began to raise suspicion. Ronald asked the policeman what he had to do in order to collect his father's life insurance policy. As they asked more questions, they began to find many inconsistencies in his story. The next day, Ronald confessed to killing his entire family with a .36 caliber lever-action Marlin 336C rifle. He had carried his gun quietly through the empty halls of their home to his parents' room, and he fired 4 shots, 2 in his father and 2 in his mother. He then went to his sister's room and fired 1 shot into each of them. Then lastly, he did the same for his brothers. Physical evidence shows that Ronald's mother and his sister Allison had been awake when he opened fire. His trial took place a year later, on October 14th, 1975, where Ronald's attorney attempted to plead insanity, claiming Ronald had killed in self-defense. However, Judge Thomas Stark said that DeFeo's crimes were undoubtedly the most heinous crimes committed in Suffolk County since its founding. Ronald DeFeo was then given 6 25-year-to-life sentences and was sent to the Sullivan Correctional Facility in Fallsburg, New York. George and Kathy Lutz had been married for 6 months, and each of them were living in their own separate homes. Together, they decided to buy a new house for them and Kathy's 3 young children to live in. Looking desperately for an affordable place to live, they came across a beautiful 3-story Dutch colonial house with a distinct gambrel roof. As they did more research on the beautiful home, they were shocked to discover the $80,000 price tag. After talking with the real estate broker and taking a look at the inside of the house, the Lutz decided to move in to 112 Ocean Avenue on December 18th, 1975, just 13 months after Ronald DeFeo murdered his family. When the Lutz learned about the house's history, they were not concerned and moved in nonetheless. Many of the DeFeo's pieces of furniture were still in the home, as most of it came included as a part of the deal. One of George's friends discovered the dark things that took place in their home and insisted on having a priest come by the house and have it blessed. Both Kathy and George agreed, and Father Ralph J. Pecoraro drove to Ocean Avenue and performed a blessing while George and Kathy unpacked their belongings. As Father Pecoraro made his way up the stairs, the hairs on the back of his neck began to stand on end, and goosebumps began to show themselves on his arms. Once he made his way into the former bedroom of Mark and John DeFeo, he began to flick holy water and pray over the room. Suddenly, a deep, masculine voice echoed around the room, demanding, "Get out!" Shaken, Father Pecoraro finished the blessing, wished the couple well, and left without saying a word about the voice. Several days went by, and nothing seemed to be wrong. It was a perfectly normal house on a perfectly normal street. George woke up at 3:15 a.m. almost every morning, the first several nights while he was at the house. The same time it is believed that the 6 DeFeo family members were killed. The Lutz complained about disgusting odors, similar to that of rotting meat, that would come and go without any explanation as to where they were coming from. George also stated that he could not get warm in the house for many days. It did not take long before their experiences began to grow more terrifying. Doors would be ripped off at the hinges. Cabinets would slam open and shut. Slime even oozed from the ceiling. One night, George heard his children's beds shaking violently, but was unable to help them as an invisible force held him to his own bed. After 28 days, the Lutz moved out of 112 Ocean Avenue. 2 months after that, a local TV crew and a team of ghost hunters went over to the house to do a segment on the horrors that had taken place. They took several photographs of the home, including one that took the world by storm. It showed a ghost boy peering out one of the bedroom doorways. The story of the Amityville Horror House is one of the most controversial in history. Many believe wholeheartedly that the house has a demonic presence. Others believe it's a massive hoax. George's stepson, Christopher, who at the time of the haunting was only 7 years old, says his father was very interested in the occult, and even though he did exaggerate some aspects, does not deny that there were paranormal occurrences at the Amityville house. Many families have lived in the house since the Lutzes, and none of them have claimed to see much out of the ordinary. What do you think happened at Amityville in 1974 and 1975. Do you believe this house is truly haunted? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you again for watching. Please subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.